This wasn't a gentleman's game. This was war, and his weapon wasn't a sword. It was a steamship. He didn't just compete. He aimed to sink the competition literally. Forget what you know about polite business. This is the true story of Cornelius Vanderbilt. Truth 1. Finesse is for the weak. Vanderbilt built his first fortune with his fists and his will. He was a brawler from the docks of Staten Island who understood one simple rule. If you and outsmart them, outmuscle them. Imagine this. He'd start a rival ferry line and then just slash prices down to nothing. Not to make a profit, but to bleed his competitors dry. He'd drive them to the absolute brink of bankruptcy. And just when they were about to go under, he'd swoop in with an offer to buy their entire business for pennies on the dollar. It wasn't a strategy you'd learn in business school. It was a siege. He wasn't just playing the game. He was changing the rules to ensure he was the only one left standing. Truth 2. Loyalty is a liability. Think about the partners who were with you from the beginning. The ones who helped you build everything. You'd think they'd be safe, right? Not in Vanderbilt's world. His longest-serving partners, the men who helped him construct his shipping empire, made the mistake of thinking their loyalty meant something. They were wrong. The moment a better deal or a more strategic alliance came along, the man they called the Commodore cut them off without a second thought, without a single moment of hesitation. To him, sentimentality was just another line item on the balance sheet, an unnecessary cost. And if there was one thing Vanderbilt hated, it was an unnecessary cost. Business was business, and personal relationships had no place in the equation. Truth 3. Don't wait for opportunity. Manufacture it. In 1849, the world was gripped by gold rush fever. Everyone was scrambling to get to California, dreaming of striking it rich. While most saw the gold in the ground, Vanderbilt saw a much bigger gold mine, transporting the dreamers. The existing routes were long, dangerous, and expensive, either sailing all the way around South America or trekking across the disease-ridden Panamanian Isthmus. So, Vanderbilt created his own crisis and his own solution. He established a shorter, faster, and cheaper route through Nicaragua, advertising it aggressively. He didn't do it because it was easier, but because it gave him a near-total monopoly on the journey west. He effectively built the toll road to the American dream, and every prospector heading to California had to pay his price. Truth 4. Know when to abandon your own empire. Imagine being the undisputed king of an industry. At the height of his power, Vanderbilt's fleet of steamships was the most dominant force on the water. He was the Commodore, a name synonymous with shipping supremacy. Most people would have clung to that power, milking it for all it was worth. But not Vanderbilt. At 70 years old, he looked at the horizon and saw the future. And it wasn't on the water. It was on rails. So, he did the unthinkable. He sold every last one of his ships. He liquidated his entire maritime empire and plunged every dollar of his massive fortune into a fledgling, chaotic industry, railroads. He didn't just adapt to change. He self-cannibalized his own success to build something even bigger. Most people cling to what made them successful. The truly great ones abandon it for what will make them legendary. Truth 5. A fractured fortune is a weak fortune. In the final act of his life, on his deathbed, Cornelius Vanderbilt made his last, and perhaps most brutal, business decision. With his family gathered, he delivered his final verdict. He left a staggering 95% of his entire empire, the largest fortune in American history at the time, to just one son, William. He all but disinherited his other children and his wife. This wasn't necessarily born of malice, but from a cold, calculated belief that a dynasty can only survive if its power is concentrated. To ensure his legacy would endure, he believed it had to be controlled by a single, strong heir. In his mind, dividing the fortune would be dividing its power, and weakness was something he would never tolerate, not even in death. He sacrificed his family's happiness for his legacy's survival. So what's the lesson from this titan of industry? Vanderbilt was the original blueprint for the modern tycoon. He was the first to prove that American industry could be conquered, not just with innovation, but with pure, relentless, and often ruthless will. He wrote the playbook, and if you look closely, you'll see his strategies are still in use today. The players have changed. The industries have evolved from steamships to space, from railroads to cloud computing. The foundational rules of aggressive expansion, calculated betrayal, and a relentless focus on the future. That's pure Vanderbilt. The empire builders of today are just playing the game he perfected over 150 years ago. He didn't just build a fortune. He forged an empire with the sheer force of his will, and he didn't care who he left in his wake. Remember,